Welcome to Startup School with Startup Canada and Versature. Startup School is a monthly series part of Startup Canada Live, dedicated to the professional development of Canada's entrepreneurs and community leaders. My name is Rochelle Desorcy, and I am the Social Media and Digital Events Coordinator at Startup Canada. I am your host for today, and I will introduce your featured guest in just a few moments. Today's Startup School topic is building your sales development practice, aka staying human while scaling your marketing and sales with technology. It's presented by Versature, the official digital communications provider for Startup Canada. We have an amazing expert guest joining us today. Anastasia Valentine is the Vice President of Marketing at Versature. Anastasia is responsible for all the day-to-day marketing tactics as well as the long-term strategies for Versature. So today we're going to jump right into the class. Just a reminder to our audience that you can ask questions throughout the hour using the YouTube comment section and by using the Startup School hashtag on Twitter. So without further ado, welcome to the program, Anastasia.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Excellent. We're so happy to have you. So Anastasia's just going to jump right into our presentation.
Yeah, I'm just going to do a share. And Rachel, if you could just let me know once you see everything the way it's supposed to look, that would be excellent. You're going to see here for just a moment. There we go. And
perfect.
Should be up there now?
Over to you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, welcome everyone. I really appreciate you coming out today to just hear a little bit more about how to create a sales development team and what a sales development team really is. We've just started our practice here at Versature earlier this year, and it's really been making a huge positive impact on the business. So it's something that we want to share with up-and-coming organizations like us, or some that may have a seasoned SDR practice. They might want to up-level it a little bit and mix things up a bit. So I first want to start with inbound, because at Versature, our SDR team does both inbound and outbound. And there's some key stats that I wanted to share with you that were a little concerning to me. The first one is, did you know that the median response call or median first response from a vendor once they receive an inbound lead is about 3 hours and 8 minutes, with the average being 61, and 47% of companies don't actually even respond at all. And I don't know about you, but when I go to look for information about a particular vendor, a product or service, if I don't hear back within, let's say, 61 hours, I've probably already bought somewhere else, let alone done some comparison shopping. And certainly if no one gets back to me, well, I know that I'm off to the next great thing. So we want to make sure that you get back to your customers, and ideally you're going to get back to the customer before any of your competitors, because 50% of the buyers choose the vendor that actually responds first. It's that first impression to the buyer, and if they hear from you, that is a big coup in terms of winning the deal. Also, if you're able to get back to them within 5 minutes, and our SDR practice has a service level agreement where they do have to get back to every incoming lead within 5 minutes, it will actually increase your conversions by 21% or 21 times. So that's pretty significant when you're really building your business based on the incoming leads or even your outbound, which we're going to get to in just a second. But keep those particular facts in mind, because when you're building your SDR practice or even just handling your inbound demand in general, these kind of stats are very key, because you have to be able to respond in a very human, very solution-oriented way to the people who actually want to do business with you. These are freebie leads, and you have to be responding in kind. So let's take a look at the outbound. So it takes about 60 to 90 calls or touch points to get a qualified sales appointment. So when we go to our list, or when our SDRs create their list, or maybe you purchased a list, although those aren't the greatest things to do, it takes about 60 points of outreach to get to someone who will actually agree to a sales appointment. So that would be someone who's qualified to spend a little bit more time going deeper into the funnel, going over to the sales side, someone who really wants to do business with you. Now, the great thing about SDRs and having that first level of triage and that solution-oriented person who wants to find the ideal perfect fit customer for your business, they can actually decrease the sales cycle by about 15% and increase revenue by 30%. This is huge for any business, because who wants to spend time in a long, drawn-out sales cycle? And everybody wants an increase in revenue. Now, our SDRs are pretty special people. They're probably one of the most important people group in the company from a customer-facing perspective, because they are the first touch point with any potential customer that we have. They talk to all the folks who are coming through inbound, and they also do the outreach. And in the industry, those people who are calling you get a really bad rap, especially if they do it really poorly. And those are those dollar dialers. Those are the people who are just focused on generating leads. They're not the ones that are focused on looking for a bona fide opportunity for your business, someone who is starting to build that relationship. So I would say, if anything, your SDRs they're really relationship builders, because again, they're that first touch point to your prospect. And for someone who will potentially do business with you, they're that first impression. So they've got to be really amazing. And they have to really kind of showcase the kind of experience that they're going to have, that the customer is going to have with your company. And at the end of the day, we're really looking for people who are problem solvers and solution-oriented people who will keep the customer in mind and not just look at building numbers or doing business with just anybody. Now, I did a breakdown with what our SDRs are responsible for and what the sales team is responsible for, and I won't go into this in great detail, but one thing that really allows us to scale, so as soon as we add more SDRs, they create their own lead lists. I kind of alluded to not purchasing lists because the quality is not always there. And any of you who've done that will know that if you do purchase a list, by the time you get it, it's outdated. The data's wrong. There's a huge data quality problem. And there's very little value to some of the ones you get. Some of them are okay, but creating your own list based on sources that are up to date is probably the best way you can work with your SDRs, empowering them to do that, and then also making sure that you have the most up-to-date information. We have something called a cadence, and this is a series of communications that our SDRs execute on that is really different depending on who we are targeting at that time. And things are a little bit systematic at our end, where we're targeting a specific industry, specific geo, maybe we're following up on an event, or maybe a specific call to action. So the cadence will be different depending on how we are interacting with the customer or how the customer has contacted us. They manage the cadence, they address any of those top of the funnel objections or questions, and then they identify some key characteristics that they can provide to our sales team to have a better conversation to serve the customer best. Now, the sales team is responsible for talking about anything regarding price, demoing our solution, positioning us against the competitors, or those mid to deep funnel objections that may come up during a sales cycle. The most important thing is that our sales team is there to close and to provide the right solution for that customer. And what really works well for us is when we get a customer who shows some interest, if we have them on the phone, why don't we connect them directly to a salesperson or one of our product experts straight away? And when you have them in the zone, when they're already in that mindset, that works really, really well. So you can have that initial conversation from both a sales development and qualification point of view and also sales execution point of view. Now, the only reason that you should really invest in an SDR practice is to generate more revenue. And, this seems like motherhood and love a little bit, but it really is, because it's not necessarily to make the sales job easier. It's not necessarily to bring in more leads. Ultimately, you need this practice to make your company money. But there are some really great fringe benefits of hiring an SDR team. Remembering that it's the first impression that they give. So if you're training them well and really hiring the right people, you're going to be improving the customer relationships right from the get-go, right from the first contact. You're improving productivity so that your sales team can really focus on those mid to bottom level, funnel level objections, or to working through a tough negotiation, doing the things that they do best. And of course, the SDR team interacts with everybody in the organization. They interact with marketing, they interact with support, they interact with sales, with our onboarding. They really develop the internal relationships as well. So by having an SDR team, we talked about the increase in revenue, which is fantastic, but there are a lot of fringe benefits to the customer, to the company as well. Now, your SDR team doesn't necessarily have to be a salesperson. In fact, when I've done interviews, and I've done over 100, at least 100 at this point, I've interviewed people from all different career paths. I've interviewed new grads, people who are in a career transition, they want to try something new. Maybe they have some call center experience, and maybe they actually have some sales experience. The most important thing, let's just go through these like one by one. With the new grad, you're looking for someone who has a lot of positive energy. They might want to have a career in sales. They might want a career in marketing at that point. But this would be an entry-level position. The SDR team positions usually are. And we're looking for someone who can learn fairly quickly, because you don't want to unleash a new grad on dealing with the CXO community. They really have to have a lot of training so that they're able to handle themselves and represent the company well. Now, someone who is in a career transition, maybe they're coming off mat leave, maybe they want to try something new, but this gives them an opportunity to stay, maybe refine some of their experience. They've already had experience in the workplace, but maybe they want to try a different path, a different career. So an SDR role for them might be ideal. But again, they've got to have some of those traits that we're looking for. We're looking for those people who have empathy. And empathy is probably the most important thing. Then we're looking for people who are problem solvers, solution-oriented. So if they have those characteristics, then that's really a really good base for them to start from. If someone's coming from a call center, I'm a little bit concerned about these folks, because our SDR practice is not your traditional call center. It's not the outsourced bunch of people who are calling and dialing for dollars, reading from scripts. We really have to transition these folks into more of a problem-solving role and solving a problem for these customers who are having key pain points that match our sales cycle. We're not looking to getting as many phone calls done. They're not measured necessarily on the number of phone calls they do. They're really measured on the success that they bring into the company. And when we're bringing people from call centers, it's sometimes a hard transition, but if they're looking for a really refreshing way of doing business, I mean, this is definitely an option for them. And for folks who already have sales experience, maybe they have some industry experience as well, they might want to have a foot in the door, and the SDR team is a great opportunity for that. But I want to recap, these three things that we're looking for. We're looking for someone who has empathy, someone who really cares about serving a customer well and providing a solution to their problems. We're looking for people who are solution-oriented, and again, that problem-solving capability. If you have those things, then it makes a conversation much more natural, not necessarily a hard sell, but something that's really comfortable for the first touch point for your company. And if you want to know about the people that you're not looking for the people who are dialing for dollars. You're not looking for the people who want to sell to just about anybody who will pick up the phone. You're looking again for those people who really want to represent your business effectively. They want to give that positive customer experience from the first moment that they talk to a customer or receive an email or a LinkedIn request, for example, right on through being onboarded and receiving support from our support team. We don't want those, I hate to say it, but kind of that traditional or stereotypical used car salesman feel. Now, our sales development team fits at the very top of this table. And this table is from the Sales Development Playbook, which will be on our reading list that I'll share with you in a moment. But we want them to address the questions, why listen to us? And why care about what we have to offer? So if you think about the why listen category, this is when we're coming into someone's day. They're probably really busy, but we want them to be curious after we have that conversation or that first touch point. And we want to have that initial introductory meeting with our sales team. At that point, they're able to bring them into a little bit more of the fold and to that circle of trust that I like to call it, and have that discovery call or that demo with our sales team. But our sales team is really focused on the why change to Versature, or why change? Why us? Why now? And our SDRs are focused on qualifying that customer, making sure that they are in fact a good fit for our company and our offerings, and then passing it through to our sales team. And if there's one thing that I heard during the interviews that I've done with SDRs coming on to Versature, probably the biggest thing that makes them want to move, or makes them actually even want to stop what they're doing, is that there's absolutely no career path, especially at the folks who are working in call centers. They're managing a number of customers at one time, and their role is exclusively reaching out, doing outbound, and nothing but. There's nowhere for them to move from a career perspective unless they move out. But we don't see it that way. The way I look at an SDR, and even during the hiring process, I'm kind of thinking, where could this person go in the company? What kind of value can they add beyond that initial SDR role? And we ask for them to have a 12 to 18 month commitment. And the reason we do this is because during this time, they are intimately familiar with our customers. They know exactly what makes them tick, what their pain points are, who they are, what industries we are really strong in. And they get to know our products, they get to know our services, they get to know our people. And by the end of this 12 to 18 month commitment, where they're doing this outbound work and even managing some of our inbound, we already love them. They're already a cultural fit with our company. So that enables them to hit the ground running in a number of other ways. So they can come to the marketing team, they can move into customer success. Some of them have sales in their blood, so they're looking to go into the sales track. Or maybe, as the team grows, they can go into a team lead position. But the idea that the SDR team does not have a career path at all is ridiculous, because these people are going to be totally trained by you to have a customer-facing experience and definitely customer-facing skills, so they can move anywhere with your company. So it's a really good investment with them from the get-go. And when you're interviewing, try to find out where they want to go to see if there would be a good path for them in your organization. Now, the SDR practice has been really, really hot over the last 5 years. Now, it's really getting to a mature standpoint where organizations and experts are saying it must be done this way, it must be done that way. Some people say they have to be inbound or outbound only, maybe just handle both, like in our case. Maybe they report up to sales, maybe they report up to marketing. Sometimes they have a one-to-one relationship with a salesperson, or maybe you should outsource the whole darn thing. But really, at the end of the day, it's what works best for your organization. Where we're heading right now, we're getting to the point where we have a really solid critical mass of inbound to actually separate the team out into inbound and outbound. It will still be an SDR responsibility, but they'll probably be measured a little bit differently for inbound than the outbound work, because it does take a little bit more of a thicker skin to do outbound. But at the end of the day, look at what works with your organization, look at the bandwidth of your people, look at the volume of outbound and inbound coming in, and see what works best for your team. So now let me share with you some of the secrets in terms of what we have found to be really successful in building our SDR practice. So what we did at first, we evaluated a lot of options here. Like, we looked at, why don't we just outsource all of it and be done with it? Why don't we get a bunch of contract people on board? But we decided at the very beginning that we wouldn't do that, because I keep harping on the fact that, remember, the SDR is the first touch point for any customer into your organization. So we wanted to start small and learn and experiment, but start really, really strong. So our first hires were, one had strong industry experience and very strong sales experience. And one was a really personal person, really was solution-oriented, wanted to solve our customer problems, and was really easy to deal with, really easy to have a conversation with. And they had an excellent business acumen, and I would have trusted any of them with a prospect and handling that from almost the get-go. And in doing that, that kind of modeled the type of people that we were looking for the SDR group at Versature. We chose the right people. We take a long time to choose the right people, and it actually pays off in the long run. So we get people who we absolutely trust with the incoming inbounds and who can handle themselves really well on the outbound. And they also have a really thick skin. So our advice is absolutely to start small so that you can try new things and you have really great people to work with, and start strong and make sure people have experience and the business acumen to have those conversations with incoming customers. I talked about testing. Now, when we started, there's so many books out there. I'm going to recommend some in a second, even some that are contradictory to each other. But the important thing to do is to test, experiment, and test again. And if you're testing, you're able to test messaging, methods of contact, length of time between contacts, length of a cadence, how many touch points, all of these things. There's no blueprint. There's nothing that says this will work each and every time, no matter what, for any business. It just doesn't exist. So have the flexibility to test and experiment and test again, but also be pretty ruthless as to killing things that don't work. So if you're finding that you're not getting the type of response, or you're not getting the email opens, or you're not getting people receptive to your message, you need to go back and tune it, and tune as you go. And this is going to be an ongoing process, as you go into different verticals, as you target different geos, as you get new people on board. All of these factors come into play when you're creating your cadences and creating the cadence that is personalized for the different situation. You're going to have to experiment, and if you're having this mindset from the get-go, it'll be really easy to execute. And again, if something isn't working, kill it, put it to bed, and try something new. I understand from a startup perspective that sometimes connecting with any customer is a great thing. When you're targeting your SDR efforts or your outbound efforts, it's important that you are exclusively connecting with your perfect fit customers and the people that you serve best and your company serves best. If you're exclusively focused on them, you are guaranteed to get the right people in the door, as long as you've done the legwork to really understand who your perfect fit customers are. Look at the ones that you really enjoy working with. Look at the ones who pay their bills regularly. Look at the ones that are advocates for your solution. Those are your perfect fit customers, and those are the ones that you need to target. And what we've done is that we've done the regular buyer persona and user persona exercise. This is a really high level, but this enables us to really understand who are we talking to, what do they care about, what size companies should we be targeting. So we created this persona called Amazeballs, and Amazeballs is a Canadian company, 200 employees and growing, 20 remote workers, which is great for us because that's one of our best use cases that we're able to serve. They've got, like I said, the remote workers, they've got multiple offices, and they have solid funding and growth. So this company isn't going to fade away overnight, ideally. Now, when we're selling our solution, we talk to the CXO community usually. It will be the chief technology officer or someone reporting to that person, the chief financial officer, or the chief operating officer or office manager. We know what they really care about. So the CTO cares about technology. They care where their data goes. They care about having someone that they can, having a system that can scale. Whereas the CFO is very focused on a cost-effective solution, but at the same time, they're looking for someone who will be there for the long haul. So they're not looking for a pop-up shop. And then from the office manager point of view, they're looking for an easy, low-maintenance solution, something that's easy for their users to use, but also provides them with the features that they need to do their job really well. She's also looking for some integration with operational systems, which is an additional thing that we offer. So we're able to speak to the things that these particular buyers need to have answered. We're able to answer their questions and also alleviate some of the pain that they might be experiencing with their current solution. So by creating this buyer persona, you're going to be able to target your SDR efforts or any of your outbound efforts much, much better. It's better to be laser targeted than to do the splat approach and the spray and pray approach, which never works. Personalization and making the customer feel like they're not just being scripted to or being copy and pasted really provides that next level of customer experience that you want them to have when they contact your organization or when your SDR contacts them. Now, our communications are completely personalized, and this is well beyond the, changing that slug for a first name and last name or company name. That's, rudimentary. We can all do that in our sleep. And you don't need an SDR practice to do that. But we do also change the way that we approach a customer depending on the call to action, depending on the kind of product that they're interested, depending on the kind of vertical. So for example, I wouldn't market to a legal firm the same way I would market to a technology company or the same way I would market to a marketing company. So those are just different ways that we personalize. Again, it's way beyond changing a first name or a company name. It's really providing a series of communications that best fit that customer, whether it be, again, industry, a call to action, the type of request, or the type of follow-up that we're doing. Now, our outreach for the SDR team is planned in advance. We have a series of themes that we have from the marketing standpoint where we have specific content that we create for each month that matches up to a theme. We match up our SDR strategy the same way. So if, let's say, this month we're talking about technology, well, maybe we'll target technology companies that month as well. We leverage the successes that we have in the different verticals. We're really strong in certain areas, so periodically we'll go back to the different verticals, look for the new companies that match our perfect fit customer profile. We personalize that cadence, and then we go ahead and work that cadence all the way through. For inbound, we make sure they're added to the right cadence, so they're getting the right communications. So if they're looking for a demo, well, clearly we need to make an appointment with them straight away. They don't need 5 weeks of nurturing in order to get that demo. And of course, we have that SLA, remember? So within 5 minutes of receiving that inbound, they've got to go ahead and make sure that that customer is contacted right away. And even when our sales team goes on road trips, we want to fill their calendar. So we'll do a bunch of targeting within that specific geo that a salesperson is going to, so that we can fill up their calendar, create some lists, and have a really high touch point, personalized cadence for the people that they're going to be meeting. Something that really introduces them to the salesperson that they're going to be connecting with, and also maybe gives some tidbits and some personal information that they can use as conversation once they actually get that meeting. And our SDR team will also follow up on all of our events. So all of the leads that we get from our events, whether they're online or in-person, trade shows, even networking events, we make sure that we have a personalized cadence for that specific event, and then also that we follow up within 24 hours. You've got to give people time to get home and get settled, but within that 24-hour period, we make sure that all of those leads are followed up with. And leads can come from a lot of different places. I talked about buying lists and some of the trials and tribulations about getting lists that have been hanging around for a little while and not very timely, and the data quality is a little bit questionable. Some lists are still pretty good, but at the end of the day, we find the most effective way to create lists is to have each of the SDRs empowered to create their lists themselves. And of course, that matches up to our specific targeting strategy for that period of time. But they can get these leads from Sales Navigator or LinkedIn. We might already have some prospects that are not necessarily progressing through the funnel as fast as we'd like, so we might hit them as well, the ones on our email list. There are business directories out there all over the place. They may have their own professional network or book of business that they bring in. So we have a personalized cadence for that as well. And of course, as I mentioned, events. So these are just some of the examples of ways that they can go ahead and source their leads. There are many, many more, but these are the ones that you should focus on first and then expand from there. So let's talk money, because I'm really passionate about this particular topic. Not money per se, but making sure that we provide a type of compensation that will allow us to make sure that we meet the basic needs of the SDR and also provide an incentive to bring in qualified customers. And I wanted to address that base salary plus bonus really, really heavily, because while I understand some people say it's all about the hustle, they've got to be singing for their supper, they've got to be commission only. And that's not that great. And the reason it's not that great is because you've got people who are worried about things like, I don't know, paying their rent, eating, paying for daycare, and things that they shouldn't be worried about when they're on your clock. They should have those basic needs met. So remembering that the SDR team or the SDR role is an entry-level position, we still want to make sure that they have that base salary that they can rely on. And they're incentivized to do better. So they'll have a bonus based on the number of, and they also get a percentage of the revenue for the deals that are closed. So they can make whatever they want. We have no cap here, but having a base salary is absolutely imperative if you want them motivated for the right things. If you are only motivated based on getting a huge number of deals in the door that may or may not actually close, that's not the right motivation. We want to make sure they're covered and then incentivized to do the right thing. Now, for the first 2 months, we give them a ramp up. So we give them that bonus for the first couple of months to allow them to have that grace period where they're being trained. Their probation is 3 months. And if they hit their targets for sales accepted leads, they get 100% of their bonus, which is great. And their target is 40 sales accepted leads during the month. So if they actually achieve more than that and they get over 100% of the sales accepted leads, we'll give them, let's say if they do 110%, we'll give them 110% of their bonus. Then we'll have an accelerated sal plan that comes in. Now, if they get less than 50%, we don't do a bonus at all because that's not incentivizing the right behavior. At the end of the day also, since they were the ones that sourced that deal and brought that deal into the sales team, they get a percentage of the annual reoccurring revenue, which is something that's really great for them to have as an incentive to bring in the right deals, the right size deals, the right people who will last for a longer period of time, not just the ones that will sign up and then churn. So if you're thinking about an SDR role 1, 2, or 10 even in your company, really think about the kind of compensation package you're going to put together, make it attractive so that it will cover their basic needs and incentivize the right behaviors. And be data-driven. We talked about experimenting and killing what isn't working, but being data-driven is absolutely key to making your SDR practice work. Because while they are very passionate people, they're very positive, they're solution-oriented, and problem solvers, at the end of the day, they need to make money for the company. So what we are always looking for is that they have 50 calls a day. Now, they're loosely measured on this. 50 calls a day tells me as the manager, the leader of the team, that they're busy. So if they have those 250 calls a week, I know that they're actually making the calls that they're supposed to do. They're also supposed to have those 10 sales accepted leads a week. Some of our folks go ahead and try to do 3 a day, so get them up to a little bit more than this. And the reason they do that is because what if there's a no-show? They want to make sure that they're overcompensating a little bit. But at the end of the month, we're looking for 40 sales accepted leads. Now, from a team perspective, what I'm always looking at is which cadence is bringing in the right deals. Which team, is the team actually meeting their goals as a team perspective? Are the individuals meeting their goals? Is it taking one longer to get meetings than another? Is there a coaching opportunity here? And what time frame are our team members able to bring leads over from the SDR team to our sales team? And all of these combinations and permutations are really important for us tuning our smooth running machine. So we've got it down to something that really, really works well. But again, because we're always experimenting, we always have to be monitoring at this level as well. Now, having an SLA, so a service level agreement between sales and SDR, is absolutely key in building that trusted relationship between the two teams. So we have defined the sales accepted lead as having really specific criteria that has to be met for it to be considered accepted. We don't want the Gmail, Hotmail, or Yahoo addresses. We want that company to be verified, and verified that they are in fact looking for a product or service that we provide, and that they would be a good fit. Maybe there are specific moving or buying signals. So some of our buying signals are moving, acquisition, contract end, or maybe they're just unhappy with their current vendor. We want to be able to qualify that deal a little bit further to find out how many seats, how many locations, and what are their pain points that they have with their current solution. Once they have that information, they can go ahead and book an appointment in the salesperson's calendar. And once that appointment is confirmed, accepted, and attended, then it's a sales accepted lead, and only then. Now, they do get bonus points if they're able to identify any competition in that particular account, maybe who does their IT and some of their pain points, and their contract end date. That will allow us to follow up in the case where they can't switch vendors right away. And our team isn't huge, so we need to use technology to scale. And there are lots of technology stacks out there, but this is the technology stack that we use internally. So we're using something called SalesLoft, and SalesLoft allows us to create that personalized cadence for each scenario and manage the process. Make sure that the activities are being done on time, that activities aren't skipped, that we have the number of successes, and that would be sales accepted leads, and that we're able to completely integrate with Salesforce. And that leads us into more of KPI measurement, being able to measure how many deals have closed and at what value, and how do we calculate that ARR on those deals to compensate our SDR team. Now, we'll also use Pardot, which will help us to do additional automation and additional nurturing. And that, again, that's scaling to meet the customer's needs. Let's say they've gone through a cadence, and maybe we add them to our mailing list, or maybe to a specific industry email drip. But Pardot really allows us to do that, and then also allows us to track behavior. So if someone comes onto our website after the fact, after being contacted by our SDR team, we're able to monitor that and provide the right information and personalized experience for them as well. Now, from our perspective, we provide business phone service. So we also use our own tools to do additional measurement, so monitor those outgoing and incoming calls, especially when we have a queue set up to make sure we monitor that volume. We also use it as a coaching opportunity and for quality control. So if someone has a particular tough time with a call, we'll all listen to it as a team and say, maybe you could have done it this way, or next time try this technique or this tactic. And also from a quality control perspective, every once in a while I'll get in there and randomly listen to calls just to make sure that the quality that we're expecting and the customer experience that we're expecting to deliver is actually being done. And this is just a photo of what the environment looks like here at Versature. We've got our graffiti wall there too, but that's not what I wanted to show you here. We're very transparent in terms of sharing information and metrics with the company. And as you see those monitors hanging from the ceiling, well, we've got those all over the office. And they're showing a variety of metrics, such as, in this case, it's marketing metrics, our onboarding metrics, our sales metrics, our customer support metrics. Everybody has visibility into these metrics. It keeps us honest, keeps us accountable, and it's really a great way to communicate the success of the organization and really quickly identify areas that we need to tune. So if your company culture allows for this, I would strongly recommend sharing those metrics, even if it's not in this particular way, but sharing those metrics with the entire team. And earlier I talked to you about the kind of call that we don't want to receive when we're on the receiving end on an outbound effort. We've all gotten those calls that come in at dinner time. We've got those people who are only interested in seeing if we have a heartbeat. They're not really interested in us as a human being, and that's a huge problem. So make sure when you're training your SDRs, they've got to be empathic. They've got to have that level of empathy to appreciate what the customer's going through. If they're busy, they're busy. Try a different way that's more convenient for them to reach them, or honor the time that they need to get back to work. And understand that, everybody has things going on. So we want to make sure that every experience is a positive one, whether it's the experience that you're delivering to the person receiving your call, to the experience that they get when they're actually dialing back in. So make sure that you have that high level of humanity when you're dealing with people who could potentially do business with your company, because it's more than that additional call. It's the reputation of the company as a whole. And that leads us into quality. We want to be able to have that high quality experience. That's everything from having a very clear conversation, one that addresses the pain points of the customer, one that gives them what they need. If they need pricing, get them pricing. If they need a demo, get them a demo. But if they need something, their specific questions answered, make sure that happens. Don't be so rigid so that you're going through a cadence and saying, well, don't worry, your question will be answered in step 5. Well, no, always make sure that the customer gets a high quality experience, gets the information that they want as they need it. And this is one of the fundamental things that we believe here at Versature, and the entire company is aligned with this. And empowering your SDRs, and not only your SDRs, but anyone who's in a customer-facing role to do the right thing for the customer. And we always say, and actually our president and COO always communicates this to the team, is that our guiding principle is that you cannot go wrong if you do the right thing for the customer. You won't get in trouble. You won't get reprimanded. If you're doing the right thing for the customer, it's the best way to go. And we empower our people to make those kind of decisions. And that requires you hiring the right people, trusting them, and knowing they're going to represent your company in the right way. So with that, I wanted to share our recommended reading list before we get to Q&A. The Sales Development Playbook from Trish Bertuzzi, amazing. So definitely one that we recommend. All About Being Human to Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. Totally recommend that book as well. Impossible to Inevitable from Aaron Ross and team. And one that we just added to our list last week was How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. So it really pushes the boundaries, not bad boundaries, but pushes the envelope on how you can really take unique approaches on how to get meetings with those decision makers.
Hi, Anastasia.
Hey there.
Thank you for that. We're actually doing a book club at Startup Canada for the month of August, so I'll definitely be writing down those book suggestions and see what the team thinks.
Wonderful.
Awesome. So thank you so much for your presentation. So this brings us to the Q&A section. If you want to unshare your screen so people can see you, that would be great.
Sure.
So the first question I have today is, so in your experience in building SDR teams, which characteristics repeatedly stand out as good as or bad for the role? I know you said empathy and solution driven, but are there any others that stand out?
It's really important for us as a company to have cultural fit. We've had some situations where we know the person could do the job, they would probably do a good job, but at the end of the day, if they don't gel with our people and gel with our culture, they may not be happy, and if they're not happy, the people they deal with are not happy, internally and externally. So we're really looking for someone who has kind of the similar mindset that we have. It might be a little, we have kind of a startup environment, even though we've been around for 13 years. But, we have foosball, we have our beer Fridays, we have an open concept, so not being afraid to speak when everyone's around you. They've got to really have those characteristics. I also talked about, the people who have been in call centers before, and we're not looking for that as mandatory skill sets. You don't have to have that before, because sometimes it's not that they've been ruined, but they've been taught to be measured in a very different way. So the motivations are very, very different. They're not those problem solvers. They're not empathic. They care about having, a heartbeat on the other side, as opposed to, someone that we could really serve the best. So we're looking for people who really care about what they do and serving the people to the best of their ability.
Yeah, I hear a lot of companies, they want to have kind of like fresh minds so they can train them the way they want to train them, kind of thing. Yeah, so that's really interesting. Well, cool. So how long do you think it takes for you to kind of like see that, like if they're gelling, if they're fitting?
Well, so far we have a pretty extensive interview process, so we're pretty sure that we're going to get someone who's going to fit in. I start with a phone call, just a phone interview, and what I'm looking for there is not to rake them over the coals about their experience. At that point, I'm really looking to hear on the phone how they communicate. Are they confident? Can I understand what they're saying? Are they concise? Are they listening? Because listening is such a key important for the job. It's not about getting our message across. It's about hearing what the customer really needs. So in that half-hour conversation, we're usually able to eliminate about 75% of the people that move forward. Yeah, it's pretty high.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, and then we have some in-person interviews, and then if that goes well, then we meet the team and make a final decision. And usually, that final meeting the team is coming into one of our more social parts of our culture. It could be your Fridays, it could be a potluck, it could be one of our barbecues, it could be come in for a foosball game. Yeah. But then we're able to really understand how the person interacts with people in a very different, more social level.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So pretty much hire slow, fire fast, as they always say. Yeah, that's really cool.
I haven't fire anyone yet, so.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh my God, that's awesome. Yeah. That's really cool. All right, so question 2. So what are some ways for SDRs to identify and target your perfect fit customers, and how do they build their lists?
Oh, that's a really good one. So it's not about the spray and pray approach. I mean, you could start like going through a phone book and start dialing for dollars, and that's not going to get you the customer that you want and that you want to keep, and that wants to stay with you. So we looked at the customers, when I first started here in marketing, we looked at the customers that we really loved to do business with and who just adored us and said great things about us, referred customers our way. And we created a persona based on those customers, based on their characteristics. So especially from a startup perspective, you kind of have a premise as to who you want to target. But as you move on, that might pivot a little bit, or that might be refined over time. So focus on the ones that you serve the best, and then focus on the ones that you have traction, areas that you have traction in, whether it's like, let's say, a specific geography or a specific industry, because those people, although they might compete, they still talk to each other. So they want to be using the best of the best systems and solutions for their business as well.
It's a pretty small city, so I can definitely see how that's come up a lot. Oh
Yeah.
my. So, all right, next question. So what tools and technology stack do you use to manage your team, and what's worked best and worst? Like I know you said that you use Salesforce and another one there. So yeah, like what's worked best for you guys besides
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I mean, at the very beginning, we thinking, well, let's just do spreadsheets because we'll just go through names and stuff,
Yeah.
and we didn't want to, we wouldn't be able to measure what is working and what's not based on going through like a whole list of people and reciting off scripts. So we evaluated some tools. We're using SalesLoft. There's a number of them out there, but SalesLoft allows us to have a different cadence for the different scenario and different target.
Mm-hmm.
We have about 25 of them in there right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that also enables our SDRs to provide the customer with the right experience for what they're looking for. They might be starting off in a cadence doing something, but then they want a demo. So we're going to move them into something different to get the kind of information that they want. So SalesLoft, Salesforce is key for us from a measurement perspective and certainly compensation perspective, and then Pardot from an automation perspective. And then we use our own tools, like I said.
Yeah, we like Slack and Asana. Those are our two favorites.
Slack is awesome. It's a really great way to stay communicating. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. So, all right, question 4. How much training do you offer your new team members? So I know you said that you hire slow. So once they're on the team, what do you suggest for entrepreneurs and startups for them to, like how much training do you think they need?
Yeah, for remembering again that this is probably such a critical role because this is the first experience that a prospect will get with your company. So investing in the right kind of training is key. So we have that 2-month ramp up period where we know they will not be making their numbers. They might, some of them do, some of them don't, but they need that period to get adjusted, to get comfortable with the tools and get comfortable with just confident in what that we have to offer as a company.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we do 3 weeks of solid onboarding, so solid training. That consists of training on tools, going out on sales calls, getting them the heck out of the building and getting in front of customers. Because as much as, I don't think anything important happens in the building when you're learning. So they have to get out there and really understand what customers are looking for.
Yeah.
And then they sit down with us doing calls. I start them out with inbound, so they can have a little bit more flexibility and some more coaching there. And once they're confident there, we get them doing the outbound with someone right beside them to help them out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's really good to have like a mentor. Do you guys have like a mentor system? Like do you kind of like pick a person, or like is it just like the team as a whole, or
I
do
think
you
it's
know what I
the
mean?
team as a whole because
Yeah.
we want them to not just experience one person. Like when we
Mhm.
send them off on sales calls, usually it's really opportunistic. So it's like, okay, you have a demo now, get going.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. It's not
Or
like
you've got a
scheduling.
call, let's get them on and we'll
Yeah.
schedule them that way. And same with our onboarding and support. So we make sure that they
Hmm.
sit a little bit with each functional area in the company.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. It's really just existential kind of growth for everyone. That's really cool. So what are the benefits of having an SDR team beyond generating qualified leads? What type of career path can they expect?
So, I mean, they generate qualified leads. I mean, that's their raison d'etre. That's why we want to have them there. But they're able to provide, like through that conversation, those initial conversations. And again, if they're listening, they can hear so much more than they would ever hear if they were just like trying to test for a heartbeat. And if they were just trying to get numbers of leads in the door. So they're able to provide so much more intelligence that our salespeople or product experts will ever get from an inbound form or any sort of outbound effort that's just really, low touch and not really personalized. So by having that, the whole quality of the experience all around is really, really rich, and it's a really good experience for them to have.
Excellent. Question 6. So for entrepreneurs going to hire their SDRs, how much time and money do you think should be spent on hiring? This is like a 3-part question, so I'll stop it there.
Yeah, I mean, recognize that startups don't necessarily have all the cash in the world, but they do need sales. So it's definitely an investment. And I know I really harped on having that base salary and then incentivizing them. Because you want them to be motivated for the right things. You don't want them to be worried about the things that will keep them alive and their families alive. So you want them to hustle and get the right people in the door. So yeah, I would definitely have that base salary. It doesn't have to be a high salary. It does have to cover the essentials. Recognizing it isn't an a stepping stone, a kind of an entry-level role.
Yeah.
But they're also going to be, working pretty hard for their money. So don't put a cap on there either. Let them be their own entrepreneurs, if you will, within the organization.
Oh, that's a cool way to put it. Yeah, I like that. So let's see. Yeah, I guess the other questions there, but you pretty much answered them. So do you just using commission as a tool, and then what is the compensation structure? So you did go over that. So yeah, I guess our final question, I didn't see any come in from our audience, unfortunately. Let's see. Nope. So I guess the last question today would just be, do you have any final tips for entrepreneurs and small business owners looking to scale their SDR team while staying human?
Yeah, I think it's so having that human aspect, and if you can't have a full-time SDR person, maybe that SDR person is part of marketing at the same time, because they will know exactly what kind of materials you'll need, what kind of materials they need to be successful. So maybe you have that hybrid role until you can have a pure play SDR team like we have here. I mean, we've been along for a while, and we're a bigger company, but for the people who are starting out, getting the right hire on board, maybe having that hybrid role, but someone who is passionate, and probably as passionate as you are as a founder, on making that business work.
Yeah, I really like the hybrid role thing, especially with like a communications or marketing role, just because they'd have all the messaging and stuff. That's really cool. It's a good way to put it. All right, so that just brings us to the end of this edition of Startup School. So Anastasia, thank you so much for spending your time with us today and for being a valued guest of Startup School as part of Startup Canada Live. To everybody who joined us today, all of the entrepreneurs, startup community leaders, and members, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you join us for the next installment of Startup School, Startup Live, on Thursday with our lovely podcast host, Rivers Corbett of Coaching by Rockstars. We'll be talking about 5 entrepreneurial fears and how to face them. And of course, it's Startup Canada, so the learning never stops. Check out our popular Twitter chat, Startup Chats, this Wednesday. We're going to be talking about choices, conveniences, and channels. And on Friday, we're going to be talking about overcoming fear and startup failure. So you can also stay informed of all the latest opportunities, announcements, and entrepreneur events by following Startup Canada on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, and following us on Google Plus and LinkedIn. And don't forget, we're also on Instagram now, and we actually just capped our 1,000 followers, so tune in on that as well. So thanks everyone again, and have an enterprising week. Thanks for coming, Anastasia.
Thanks for having me. Thanks everyone. Take care.
Bye.